So now we're at the part of our service where we discuss what we heard. Miriam, it would be nice to see you, if you can.
You'll see me.
Okay, good.
You'll see me, but not necessarily the whole time.
Okay.
I'm blowing my nose, all that stuff.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Well, it's the truth.
It's the truth. That's very true. Well, Rabbi Mauricio couldn't be here today, but he said when he was listening to the message, because he does the translation into the Spanish, which I sent out already, he said it's like Rabbi was a prophet then. But what happened was all these things happening in the world today stem from all the way back then with Jacob and Esau. We don't realize how the descendants of our forefathers have, when we disobey God, when you marry the wrong person, when you're with somebody who does not have your values, your morals, who does not look at life in the same way, the suffering does not only come at that moment, although let me tell you, there is, but it's the generations afterwards that suffer, especially if you're a man. You need to be very careful when you choose your wife. Does she have the same principles? Does she have the same values? Because if she doesn't believe the way you do, if you're not a believer in God, you can marry whoever you want. Doesn't matter, because you're not going to follow God anyway. But if you are, then you must be careful to marry someone with those values. You could always hope, I'll bring them to God. I'll change them. It never works. If you're marrying for the wrong reasons, in my case and in many people's case, they married to get out of their homes because they were not happy at home. And they thought it would be better if they came in with another family. But unless you really know the other family, sometimes you're jumping what's called from the fry pan into the fire. It goes from worse to even worse than that. So that's a very important thing to learn. And he really opened my eyes when it came to Esau, because I saw that the way Esau reacted was very natural. I remember, when Rabbi would lose his temper, and he would, he was a hothead. He always said he was, but then he would calm down, like King David. King David was a redhead, like Esau. King David lost his temper. He even sent his best friend to the field to die because he wanted Bathsheba. I mean, he did things that were terrible, but because he believed in God, and because he was able to acknowledge and be humble and turn around what he did. When we acknowledge what we do wrong, that makes a very big difference. To hold on with pride, to hold your place in pride, is very wrong. When you have someone who really cares about you and they come to you and say, look what you did, if you get upset with them, that's pride. There's no humility there. We need to look at what we do when we do something wrong. And I don't know if Esau himself did that, but I know that he was a hothead. And after a while, what happens with a hothead is they blow off steam and then they're fine. Rabbi was like that. He would lose his temper. He would acknowledge it. He would apologize. And he would, little by little, his temper would abate. He just like all of us. So Esau, when he saw his brother, his twin brother, the first thing he did was hug him and he kissed him, and he was so happy to see him. And they came together to bury their father Jacob. The fight, the battles weren't with Esau and Jacob. The battles came afterwards, because they married women who did not always follow God's wishes. Even Jacob. Look what happened with Rachel. Rachel stole the teraphim, the idols, from her father. And even when she was confronted, she still didn't acknowledge what she had done. She sat on them and she lied. And poor Jacob, he didn't know that she had done that. And he said, he made an oath, the one who stole these things will die. And Rachel died on her way back to Canaan. She died on the way toward Bethlehem. And that is just shows the power of our words, of what God says. You know, there are consequences for the things that we do. Midah keneged midah. We are judged measure for measure. And does somebody else have an idea from what we heard? There's more, but just to give someone else an opportunity did you learn any one thing from what you heard today?
I should have written it down. It will come back to me.
You tell me that every week.
I know, but sometimes
That's why I do this, Miriam.
It's there. It will come back in 1 second. Okay, just give me a sec. Or you can continue and that will come back.
Yeah. One of the things that he said is, we humans, we cannot change the world. And that's one of the things I think that I struggle with so much. I think I have a Messiah complex.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Go ahead. Good.
No, okay. Well, it's when you talk about a calling and not having a calling, the way I used to think of it when I was, involved in Christianity was much more black and white. You if you don't have the calling, so to speak, it's not equivalent to, let's say, going to hell or being a terrible person. It really means it's like because what you're just going to say about going to other people and getting in trouble, and a lot of people, maybe even what you can call a good person, have a conscience, but they're just, at this point anyway, you don't know what the future holds. They're not called. They haven't really had a touch from God in the sense that they gauge how they live with that calling, but they still may be moral people. And so it's not black or white the way I used to think, that it's you got it or you don't. And it's like, you're not, it doesn't mean Esau, for example. I liked what the Rabbi said. He wasn't an evil man. He wasn't evil. He wasn't touched by that calling, and his descendants, yes, were evil. And ultimately, there is a difference when you're called and you're not called. But he was, he forgave his brother, and who knows how he lived. Doesn't mean he wasn't a moral man. He left when Jacob went his way, and he went his, Jacob went to the land that's where the blessings were. Anyway, it's really interesting. I never heard things like that.
Yeah, well, we did hear it. We just weren't paying attention before.
Well, I didn't understand it that
we
way.
always go to different levels of understanding as we hear something again. But
it's always the understanding that Esau was evil.
Exactly.
He wasn't necessarily evil.
No, and look what he did. He even took all his possessions, his animals, his cattle, his wives, and he left the land that God gave to Jacob. He left and he went to Mount Seir. He went to the land, another land on the other side of the Jordan. He knew, he understood Jacob's calling. He saw it. But it's like, let's say you're a teacher, like you, Moshe, you're a teacher. And then maybe one day you just say, you know what? I'm not happy being a teacher. I want to be the principal of the school because there's more prestige. I'll make more money. But if it's not your calling, you will not make a good principal because you went to do it for the wrong reasons. Not because you really had an understanding that you could handle that job. There's a lot of people who are at high levels in their companies who have gotten there slowly, maybe for the wrong reasons. We have to find our calling, even if it's sweeping the floor as a janitor in the school. It doesn't matter. Whatever we're doing, we have to say, I'm going to do the best at this. Yes, Moshe.
Yeah. Just in Uganda, we have a saying that teach is king. And now, I was also talked about the politicians. Some of these people just go under politics for their own visions. They go there for their own intentions. But when it wasn't their calling, and that's why you're seeing that most of the governments in the world are doing what is contrary to what Elohim wants. And just like the example that you have brought, when Moshe decides maybe to leave the teaching course, then decides to go for any other thing that he feels that it will be okay for him. You never know, but it might not be successful for Moshe. Reason being, Moshe has left what God wanted him to be, leaving the calling, going the other side, doing what is contrary. Meaning, we uh, we strongly need to know our callings, and once you identify what you are meant to do in this world, then your life will settle. So that's
Yes.
what I wanted to add.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's true. Once you know your purpose in life, there's
Yeah.
a calm that comes over you. There's a sense of fulfillment within you when you're doing it. And you're not always looking to try to be what somebody else is. You know, there are politicians who do go into politics because they have the right intention and they feel that they can make a difference. The problem is when there's so many corrupt people around them, it's very difficult. Because there's huge battles when it comes to politics. Politics is a game, and it wasn't. The governments of the world were not set up to be the way God wanted us to govern. He wanted to be our king. We always wanted a man who would be our king instead of allowing God to be our king, because we couldn't understand how that could work. We have a God who is invisible. We can't see him. And it's much easier to worship something that we can see. And that's one of the problems we have as human beings. We like something more tangible. And that's, we can't always find that. One of the other things that I saw is what's happening today, the type of things that are being glorified. He said that like he said, be careful with whom you associate, because little by little, their values will seep into yours if you allow them. It's very difficult to stand strong like a politician with what you believe if everybody around you is opposite. Very difficult. If you hang out with a gang of thieves when you're young, eventually you will either get caught with the wrong crowd and you can be arrested because you were just with them, or you will become a thief. It's little by little it seeps in. And I see, I love watching movies. I love watching series on. It's one of the ways I can relax. And you see very often in these things that things like bank robbery, or if you have a high level of bank robbers, they're smart and they plan it, and they're made out, some of them, to be heroes, good people, and they're heroes. And people go, yes, the banks, they've stolen from us. They deserve to be stolen from. It's like we forget what God said in his 10 commandments: you shall not steal, period. We have found a way to take every one of his commandments and turn them upside down. If he says you shall not murder, you shall not commit premeditated murder, We've said, well, like when it comes to abortion, we say, well, you know, it's not really a person yet. This is just a fetus. It's just cells. So it's okay to take the life because the mother has a choice over her own body. We've done that in every single area of the 10 Commandments. And then we wonder why all this upheaval in the world. We're basically doing it to ourselves. And we have to stop. And he's right. Rabbi Percy is right. We cannot change the world, but we can change ourselves. And that's not an easy thing. We have to, as he said, value ourselves. That's not an easy thing, especially for women. He says we have to have self-respect. That's a very difficult thing to do because we've very often, we've grown up in families where there is not a lot of respect amongst each other. And so we learn to not have self-respect. And then as we grow as women, especially young girls who don't have self-respect, allow others to abuse us. We allow the men to abuse us. And the men need to learn, do not abuse the women. And this is going to take, I don't know what it's going to take. God is going to have to make some big changes in this world before we're going to be able to see that. And we have to tell ourselves, we are made, you and I are made in a perfect way. Yes, we are damaged from our background, but we have God in our lives. And when we go to him, and when we go to people who are godly around us for advice, to pray together, to work things through, it's hard. It's a fight. It's a battle that we're in, but we can do it with God. We have hope, and that's what we have to remember.
It's just interesting how things happen slowly. Like I remember even, the Conservative Party in Canada under Stephen Harper, and then after that, who was the one good man after that? Anyway,
Trudeau.
No, I'm not talking about the Liberals. I'm talking about the Conservative Party when it was Stephen Harper, but then afterwards the leader. And anyway, these were more.
Well, after Harper came in Trudeau.
Yes, I know, but I'm talking about the leader of what was his name? Anyway, of the Conservative Party, even though they were a minority, they were a minority led by a moral man. And these were men who believed in God and were moral men. And then slowly, the last leader, I forget his name also, of the Conservative Party, started to accept. It was like he couldn't hold his ground.
Because they're bombarded.
Yeah, but about
yes.
about abortion. So now
Right.
the conservative stance is not the same as far as I know now. But so I'm saying it happens slowly and seemingly innocently, but that's when you have to be strong and maintain your values.
Exactly. It's not easy when
No.
you're surrounded by a lot of people, more than you. We tend to even doubt whether what we believe is true.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the things that Yeshua said to remember, we can't run away from the world. Yeshua said, you are in the world, but you're not of it. That's why sometimes we feel like aliens, because we're not of this world. This world right now there's a lot of rulers who are evil, but above them is God, above all of it. So we just have to remember that as we go on and we fight our daily battles, and we will continue to have to fight our daily battles because there is no easy believism, as Rabbi used to say. It is not easy to walk with God, but we can. It just takes one step at a time. So, Sarai, I'm sorry. Lo siento. No puedo traducir para ti, pero tú es en Texas, tú puedes aprender inglés como Isabel.
Sí. Escuché a Miriam. Sí, Peggy.
Sí,
Lo voy a hacer. Tengo que
sí.
hacerlo.
Tú es capaz, tú has la capacidad. Sí.
Sí.
Poor Isabel, she had to learn French first, so it's very difficult. She had to go
For me.
from Spanish to French and now English.
English.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
good. It's good. The
Yeah,
more
I
languages-
understand that.
See.
So I don't know.
It's okay. In
I
Europe, they learn.
confuse as on the time the French and English. It's
Sí.
with my hand confused. Oh,
That's
it's
why it's
difficult.
better to learn a language when we're children.
Yes, but here speaking my children Spanish,
Yeah.
my husband English. I don't know. This
It's
confused
okay.
all the time.
It's okay. You're
I
doing
coming,
well.
coming.
You're
Yes.
doing well.
It's okay.
So Rhonda is in Plattsburgh right now. She took
Oh,
a trip. Yeah. And Mauricio couldn't be here. He had something that he had to do today. So I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to
for
everybody.
everyone.
Have a wonderful day. Moshe, sleep well. You're coming to your evening.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And we'll see you again,
Shabbat
God
shalom.
willing, la semana próxima.
Yes.
Shalom.
Bye,
Shabbat
Annette.
Shabbat shalom. Bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.
Bye, Moses. Bye, Sarah.
Bye, Severita.
Miriam. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Baruch.
Bye, Yane. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Isabel. Bye.
Bye.